The words were harmless, but they changed everything. We were sitting in the corner booth of our favorite little diner when the waitress smiled, placed 2 mugs of coffee on the table, and casually called my best friend my girlfriend. I opened my mouth to correct her. Then Emma reached across the table, gently touched my wrist, and whispered, "Don't correct her." I stared at her, certain I had misheard. She didn't look at me. She just kept staring at the coffee in front of her, her fingers still resting against my wrist, as if those 3 words had taken every ounce of courage she had. And suddenly, the woman I had known for 12 years felt like someone I had never truly understood. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the possibility that love can sometimes hide behind years of friendship, please take a moment to like this story, share it with someone who needs to hear it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It means more than you know. Emma and I had been best friends since college. We had survived bad roommates, terrible jobs, broken relationships, family arguments, and the kind of birthdays where neither of us could afford a proper celebration. We knew each other's coffee orders, favorite songs, childhood fears, and embarrassing secrets. She was the person I called when my father died, and I was the person she called when her mother became sick. We had spent so many years standing beside each other that being together had become as ordinary as breathing. Maybe that was why I never questioned it. I had dated other women. Emma had dated other men. We had even attended each other's weddings in our imaginations, joking about who would give the more embarrassing speech. Whenever someone asked if we were secretly together, we laughed it off. It was easier that way. But that morning, something was different. Emma had been unusually quiet for weeks. She had stopped teasing me about my terrible haircut. She stopped sending me ridiculous memes at 2 in the morning. She had even cancelled our usual Sunday breakfast twice. So when she finally asked me to meet her at the diner, I knew something was wrong. The diner was almost empty that morning. Rain tapped against the windows, turning the street outside into a blur of gray lights and wet pavement. We sat across from each other in the same booth where we had celebrated my 30th birthday, where she had cried over her first breakup, and where we had once spent 4 hours arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Then the waitress made her innocent mistake. And Emma told me not to correct her. I lowered my voice and asked what was going on. Emma finally looked at me. Her eyes were red. She told me she had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition. For a moment, the diner seemed to disappear. I couldn't hear the clinking dishes anymore. I couldn't hear the rain. I could barely hear her explaining that doctors had found something during a routine examination, that she needed treatment, that there were risks, and that she had been terrified to tell me. The first thing I felt was anger. Not at her. At the fact that she had been carrying this alone. I asked why she hadn't called me. She looked down and admitted she didn't want me to become responsible for her. That sentence broke something inside me. I reminded her that friendship wasn't a contract where people stayed only when things were easy. I told her she didn't get to decide for me whether I was willing to stand beside her. She started crying. And then she said something I wasn't prepared for. She told me she had asked the waitress not to correct the misunderstanding because, for one selfish moment, she wanted to know what it felt like to sit across from me and be introduced as the person I loved. I didn't know what to say. Emma wiped her tears and explained that she had loved me for years. Not as a friend. Not secretly in some dramatic movie-like way. She loved me quietly, patiently, painfully. She had watched me date other women while convincing herself that friendship was enough. She had celebrated my happiness even when it hurt. She had buried her feelings because she was terrified that telling me the truth would destroy the one relationship she could never replace. And now, with her diagnosis hanging over her, she had realized she couldn't keep pretending. I sat there feeling as though someone had opened a door inside my memory and changed the meaning of everything behind it. The time she remembered my mother's favorite flower. The night she drove 40 minutes because I said I couldn't sleep. The way she always saved the last piece of dessert for me. The way she looked away whenever I told her she was beautiful. All those moments suddenly had another explanation. But I was scared. Not because I didn't care about Emma. Because I cared too much. I told her I didn't know what to say. She nodded, expecting rejection. Then she quietly apologized for telling me. I reached across the table and took her hand. I told her I didn't know what the future would look like, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't facing it alone. Her fingers tightened around mine. For the first time that morning, she smiled. Her treatment began 2 weeks later. Those weeks were difficult. There were appointments, tests, long hospital corridors, sleepless nights, and conversations neither of us wanted to have. Sometimes Emma was strong. Sometimes she wasn't. Sometimes I drove her home in silence because there were no words that could make things better. But I stayed. I cooked meals when she was too tired to eat. I drove her to appointments. I sat beside her during long waits. I learned the names of medications I never thought I'd need to know. I even learned how to make the terrible soup she loved when she wasn't feeling well. And somewhere in all of that, our friendship began changing. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. It changed quietly. One evening, after a particularly difficult appointment, we sat on the hood of my car beneath a sky filled with stars. Emma leaned her head against my shoulder. She asked if I regretted knowing the truth. I told her no. She asked if I was afraid. I admitted that I was. She smiled and said she was too. Then she asked whether I had ever wondered what would happen if we stopped pretending we were just friends. I looked at her. For 12 years, I had been looking at the same person without realizing I was seeing only half of her. I told her that maybe I had been afraid too. She lifted her head. I confessed that every relationship I had ever had seemed to end with me comparing that person to her. I admitted that whenever something wonderful happened, Emma was the first person I wanted to tell. Whenever something terrible happened, she was the person I needed. And somewhere along the way, she had stopped being simply my best friend. She had become home. Emma cried. So did I. There was no dramatic kiss beneath the stars. No perfect movie moment. Instead, we just held each other. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive like lightning. Sometimes it has been sitting beside you for 12 years, quietly waiting for you to notice. Months passed. Emma's treatment worked better than expected. Her doctors remained cautious, but her condition improved. There were still difficult days, but there were more good ones. We started returning to the diner every Sunday. One morning, the same waitress walked over with 2 coffees. She looked at us, smiled, and asked if she should bring the usual order for the happy couple. Emma looked at me. This time, I didn't hesitate. I smiled and told the waitress yes. Emma squeezed my hand under the table. And the smile on her face was worth every difficult day that had come before it. A year later, we returned to that same diner on a rainy Sunday morning. Emma was healthier, happier, and wearing the little silver necklace I had given her. We sat in our old booth, laughing about how nervous we had both been that first morning. Then I placed a small box on the table. Emma stared at it. Inside was a simple ring. I told her I wasn't asking because I was afraid of losing her anymore. I was asking because I had finally understood something. Loving someone wasn't about knowing how long you had with them. It was about making the time you had together matter. Emma cried before she even answered. Then she said yes. The waitress, who had somehow remembered us after all those months, came rushing over and hugged Emma when she saw the ring. And this time, when she called Emma my girlfriend, neither of us corrected her. Because girlfriend was only the beginning. Years later, whenever people asked us how we met, Emma always laughed and told them we had been best friends for 12 years before either of us was brave enough to admit what was right in front of us. And whenever I think about that rainy morning in the diner, I remember how close I came to correcting the waitress. One sentence could have changed everything. But Emma stopped me. Don't correct her. At the time, I thought she was asking me to play along with a harmless mistake. I didn't realize she was asking me to listen. Sometimes the people we love are not waiting for us to rescue them. They're waiting for us to notice them. To listen. To stay. To give them the courage to believe they are worth choosing. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need a little hope today. And before you go, leave a comment saying, "Would have stayed," if you believe that real love means standing beside someone when life becomes difficult. Because sometimes the greatest love story doesn't begin with a first meeting. Sometimes it begins with two best friends finally realizing they were never just friends at all. And sometimes, all it takes is one waitress, one rainy morning, and the courage not to correct her.